Kathy Lujan was missing.
We had no idea where she was. We searched everywhere we could think of.
She would never abandon her kids.
We've always just stuck around together. And I was heartbroken.
We were interviewing everybody who knew Kathy.
That she was different. She wasn't using the same phrases anymore, and it was cold. The texts were cold.
You can be with someone, and that person has her phone and could be texting.
I didn't have her phone. There ain't nothing to tell like that.
Who has her phone? And why are they pretending to be her? And what have they done with her?
She was cheating with 2 men. When was the last time y'all fooled around?
The way his body language was, I knew he knows where she's at.
The game's up. We need to find Kathy.
Midland Police Department.
Yes, ma'am. I need to know who to talk to file a missing persons report.
Okay, what's going on?
My wife left Wednesday. She had somebody pick her up. Yesterday, I was trying to get her to come home, and she hasn't answered any of my texts.
And your name?
Juan Gonzalez. And myself and my 13-year-old are real worried, and I have a 5-year-old here that keeps asking for his mother.
What is her name? Your wife?
Kathy Lujan.
It was on a Saturday. That's when I got the call. Kathy Lujan was missing.
When I heard that Kathy went missing, my heart dropped. I was in complete, utter shock, just horror.
My mother and me, we've always just stuck around together. And I was heartbroken.
Kathy's always been a great friend. She was always there for me, always. When my sister passed away, she called me every single day after that, every single day. She is amazing.
Kathy is very caring of other people. The most important thing to Kathy are her boys.
She was my go-to person. She's an extremely vibrant person. She's very welcoming. She was just a hard worker and always wanting more for her kids.
When I got to Juan and Kathy's home, I saw Juan in the front yard, and I'm approaching him. What I'm looking for, the first thing, is to see his demeanor. Juan Gonzalez Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he really visibly upset? Is it because his wife missing? Is there something else going on? Who lives here at home?
Myself, Kathy, Nathaniel, and Lee Adrian.
Lee Adrian, he's 5 years old, and then Nathaniel, he is 13 years of age at that time. Hey!
He's always been a daddy.
Hey, look what a cute little birdie.
I could tell that he loves his children. Those are his boys, and he's a very good father. Now, Kathy Lujan, how long have y'all been together?
Oh, man, 20 years.
You can tell he was shaken up. You could tell that his eyes had been watery.
Daddy, don't cry.
It looked to me that he was very worried about Kathy. And Kathy works where?
HEB, she's an assistant lead manager in the bakery.
So tell me about Wednesday.
When I was walking up, I could hear her on the phone. And when I walk in, she just kind of like tosses the phone to the side. And I said, who are you talking to? And she said, none of your business. I knew something was going on with her. She had to be at work at 2 in the morning. She was leaving like at 12:30, 12:45. I would act like I was still asleep and afraid to ask her. I approached her that day when she tossed the phone. I said, look, are you fooling around, And she says, I'm messing with this guy named Paul at HEB. And the other guy's name, I don't know. All I know is that he was her high school sweetheart.
Both guys?
Both guys. Of course, I got upset, but I knew it was coming. She also told me I can go to my dad's and stay there. I said, no, man, don't do that to the kids. Let's just be...
Her dad live here?
Yeah, Bruce Paget. He's a locksmith.
This is Paget's sister?
Paul Paget's sister.
Paget's sister?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, oh my God, this is Paul's sister. Paul Paget is a former police officer with the Midland Police Department. I've known Paul for, I would say, 21 years.
I knew that Rosie was giving everything she had in order to find Kathy.
Even though he's not employed here with us anymore, it's personal in a way. It gets emotional. We're brothers and sisters in blue.
It was about 3:30. I left to go get Lee Adrian from Village Daycare, and we went to pick up my oldest son. When we got back, she was gone. So I'm thinking she either left with that dude, Paul, or the other guy. I texted her. She says, I'll come back when I'm ready to talk. She never came back.
I did believe, Juan, that she had had an affair with these two men. So I had to find a person named Paul at HEB. I knew the other person, we were going to have to get him identified and talk to him. Could be a possibility that she could be with one of these two men. Do you mind if we go through the room, make sure there's nothing, see if we can find anything?
Yeah.
But who's the main suspect in most missing people is the husband or a loved one. So I want to get him eliminated to say we exhausted every means. He is not a suspect. What is his medication for?
Thyroid.
Mm-hmm. On her side, there's a nightstand, and there's bottles of medication. They were empty, and it's, something that you follow in the back of your mind. You may need it, you may not need it. What I want to do is take the car and check inside the car for blood. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, you can take the car, ma'am.
It's a good sign. He's cooperating. Search anything you want. I have nothing to hide. I need to get her hairbrush and toothbrush. That's for DNA, okay? At that point, I need help. There's things we got to get done, because if we're going to find her, we're going to find her now. If we don't, we may never find her. We have to react now. She could have left with someone. If there's no foul play, there's no foul play. But there was a possibility that something bad happened to Kathy.
The notion that she had just run off was possible. Her leaving her kids behind, for a mother to do that, is possible also, but it's strange. So the investigation included doing a lot of victimology, which is where we study the victim herself.
She had just received a great job at HEB. She'd even received a promotion within her first few months there and was going to a management school.
She was really trying to make more of herself so that she could better the lives for her kids.
Kathy had recently lost a good amount of weight.
She was finally happy with herself, happy with her career, happy with her physique.
I could see that she wasn't happy with Juan. At times he was sweet with her, but she just knew that she could be happy elsewhere. And Kathy had a coworker that she really liked. He made her feel good.
Carmel is Kathy's best friend. She's going to have a lot of information about Kathy. I decided to have Carmel come up to the police department. How long did she have a relationship with Paul?
I want to just... Okay, let me think. Maybe 3 months.
3 months.
Kathy and Juan were kind of separated at the time. Paul made her very happy.
It wasn't serious, or is it just...
No, she really did like him.
Kathy told me that she wanted me to meet this guy named Paul. I told Kathy, you need to end things with Juan before you proceed with Paul. And Kathy told me that she couldn't do that because Juan had nowhere to go and she felt bad.
I actually went and had drinks with Paul and Kathy. Paul, at a first appearance, seems a little bit rough. So when Kathy went missing, I felt like maybe it could have been Paul.
I was able to find a person named Paul at HEB. I called him. I spoke to him. He denied having some type of a relationship with Kathy Lujan. I did not believe him. I thought to myself, is Kathy with him? He was going to have to come in and talk to me. Thank you, Paul, for coming up here. This is my partner, Detective Corson. We need to get to the truth. Paul did get teary-eyed and emotional.
Sorry. We had to get something from him. We had no idea where she was.
And that afternoon after she went home, that was the last time I seen her.
We couldn't believe him. We had to go check.
We identified the other lover. When did y'all start up the relationship?
Probably about a month ago, maybe.
Even though he came into the police department and cooperated, he's still a suspect.
Midland Crime Stoppers need your help tracking down a missing woman. 41-year-old Kathy Ann Lujan was last seen at her home in West Midland wearing a pink shirt and black slacks.
It was hard seeing it, in the news when her face on Facebook or her face on the news, that was hard.
Juan Gonzalez reported his wife missing on Saturday. The last time he saw Kathy was on that Wednesday, May 11th.
And the husband says she just up and left. Search is a race against the clock. We want to find a person before they get themselves in a bad spot.
Kathy had to get away. She would have called me somehow. But Kathy would never, ever just up and leave her kids, ever.
I know that Kathy had an affair with Paul Mendes. When I spoke to him on the phone, Paul lied about not having a relationship with Kathy. It did raise a red flag. What else can he lie about? Thank you, Paul, for coming up here. Rosy Rodriguez. This is my partner, Detective Corson. There was something in me that did make me feel, well, is it a possibility that she's hiding with Paul? I need to find out what is going on. What's the relationship between you and Kathy?
I would say like in December or somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. We did fool around.
He ended up confirming that he had lied to me and that he had a relationship with Kathy.
But that was almost, 5 months ago? So,
when was the last time y'all fooled around?
Man, it had to be, like I said, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that. It was like she was in management now, so it was like, hey, I mean, I'm just an employee right now, so they call it unprofessional misconduct by management.
It makes sense why he lied. I mean, she's the boss, and HEB has a policy if that occurs, the manager's terminated. He was lying to me to protect Kathy. Wednesday between 12:30 and 1, after you get off work, where do you go to?
Well, I went and hung out with, call him JoJo.
Okay, for how long?
I don't know, say 11:30 or something.
At night?
Yes, ma'am.
He provided alibis where he was at a friend's house. And of course, we need to verify and check. What does your gut tell you happened to Kathy?
I've seen those snap, 48 hours. You know, they say y'all have 48 hours. And within 48 hours, a lot of times the case goes cold. So, and it's already been over 48 hours. So, that's all right.
I know you're tearing up and stuff. I know it's hard for you to say it, but I need you to tell me. At any time, did you ever see Kathy again in person?
That morning, that was the last time I seen her. And that afternoon, after she went home, that was the last time I seen her.
Paul Mendes' reaction was real, very genuine. Even though I had those feelings, he's still a suspect. I still want to forensic download his phone. I still want to know where he was when Kathy came up missing. When I say I'm going to eliminate someone, I want it to be 100%. Juan told me that his wife was cheating with 2 men. We identified the other lover, Ramiro Paredes. Ramiro Paredes saw on his Facebook that Kathy was missing, and he immediately called. He called to tell us that he was having an affair with her. Tell me, how long have you known Kathy?
I've known her since I was 17, I guess.
When did y'all start up the relationship?
Probably about a month ago, maybe. I mean, we've never really done anything. We kissed a couple of times.
When is the last time you talked to her?
The last time I talked to her was that Wednesday.
Ramiro Paredes, even though he came into the police department, provided his phone and cooperated, he's still a suspect. And him just being cooperative doesn't mean it makes him innocent. Some time went by when you get some text from her.
Right. Text her that she was different. It wasn't the same. She wasn't the same person.
Because she didn't use the same phrases.
Right. She wasn't using the same phrases anymore. And it was cold. You know, the texts were cold.
He had been getting text messages that he believed was not Kathy from Kathy's phone after she went missing. While I was looking at the text, it seems like it was different because you were like, seemed surprised that she wanted you to send her a naked picture or something
Right.
And she's never, has she ever spoken to you like that before?
No, never.
So at that point you knew it was?
Yeah, I knew it wasn't her.
Okay. We were able to look at the verbiage, how it had changed. It's a great possibility that she can be with someone and that person has her phone and could be texting, pretending to be Kathy.
Who has her phone? And why are they pretending to be her? And what have they done with her?
Kathy has not come home, and she's been gone since Wednesday. Kathy's Paul's sister. I've known Paul for, I would say, 21 years. I just put a lot of pressure on myself.
I do a lot of traveling, and when you have a lot of windshield time, your thoughts tend to wander. There were plenty of times to driving, start thinking about my sister, start crying.
Part of me hoped that Kathy had just ran off, but I knew that she would never abandon her kids.
We need to start eliminating suspects. One of them was Paul Mendez. He had an affair with Kathy. When I talked to Paul Mendez, he provided alibis. I spoke to all his alibis. They confirmed that he was there with them. The forensic download didn't show any type of communication between him and Kathy trying to meet up somewhere. And never has he ever been around Kathy Lujan's house. He was eliminated as a suspect. The next person to do follow-up on was Ramiro Paredes, the other lover. I talked to his boss. His boss said what time he showed up and what time he left. And he was there the whole time. We did a search warrant for his cell phone, and it corroborated everything he said. We eliminated him as a suspect. The way the investigation is going, I lost all hope of finding her alive.
My mind thinks along the lines of law enforcement. Based on the circumstances, as many weeks gone by, hope was gone.
There's a field not too far from the house.
There's trees and all kinds of brush and stuff.
There was about 6 to 7 of us out there searching in the field. And we didn't find her. It was extremely frustrating for us.
I had to trust in Rosie and the Midland Police Department that they would figure it out, find her.
We were interviewing everybody who knew Kathy, and it may lead to something else, and it may not.
Well, I spoke to her Wednesday morning.
Okay.
I've worked the store for 20 years, and so I've known Kathy, and she's, a pretty regular customer.
Yes, sir.
So Juan came in Tuesday and cashed this check. It was check number 2081. And I did it because I've known both of them. They've come in the store for years, and I didn't have any problem with it. That was at 3:19, actually, when he came in and cashed that. Then he came back in that evening at 7:49 and tried to cash check number 2102 for $180.
2102?
Right, and so that's what threw something off with me.
It's way...
Yeah, in 4 hours to do that many checks, and so I was like, what's up with it? He's like, well, I just got to do a sprinkler system, and I was like, I don't feel right about that, I can't do it.
It's very suspicious. We wanted to monitor her bank accounts.
And what we quickly discovered was that Kathy's bank accounts were completely drained in about 4 days. We saw Juan make a series of withdrawals around town.
This is what we needed. It was a big break for us.
The focus is now on Juan Gonzalez. So I spoke to him about coming to the police department and to provide a statement again. Okay, you probably just saw Mitch. Okay. Sergeant Mitch Russell was in an interview with me when I was talking to Juan.
I had met Juan through a previous investigation. He got himself in trouble with some drugs, like in 1999. He did cooperate with the Midland Police Department. So I basically just offered, hey, I know Juan, I have a pretty good rapport with him. If you need me to come help you with the interview, I'd be more than happy to.
I have to advise you of your rights because obviously you didn't come up here on your own. An officer brought you up here. So let me just read your rights and you tell me if you understand or don't understand, okay?
I'm sitting just kind of behind Rosie. It's a pretty small interview room. And I didn't know anything about the case. I had no knowledge of any evidence. I was just going to try to observe the way Juan acted, the way he talked to Rosie. And I believed that if he was involved, I'd be able to tell her pretty quick.
There's some issues that I'm having with what you told me. I don't have her phone physically, but I did a search warrant and I got all the information from cell site towers. And there's a particular one, which I'm not quite understanding, is on Friday the 13th. She's gone, and you have your phone, and it shows to be at your house. Your phone is there and her phone is there. I believe that Juan was getting on her phone and pretending to be Kathy.
No, I didn't have her phone.
So all this technology is lying.
It doesn't mean that I had her phone, Rosie.
It does. You had her phone.
Juan didn't address me at all, and he wouldn't make eye contact with me, which was odd to me because we'd had history, and he believes that I was going to be on his side, so I would believe he would be looking at me for help. I knew at that point that he knew where she was and what happened.
Let's just try to get her back home.
What do you want me to do?
Tell me where you took her so we can bring her back home.
I didn't take her anywhere, Rosie. I didn't take her anywhere.
He was trying to be more intimate with her in knowledge by calling her first name to get her to believe what he was saying.
I wouldn't have had time to do anything to my wife, Rosie, and then clean something up before getting the boys. There'd be blood everywhere.
Well, now you're talking about blood. We found blood in the truck. How did that blood get there?
I don't know.
We had found blood in Juan's car, and we had sent it off to the DPS laboratory for testing. When those results came back, it was Kathy's blood.
I think that she's cheating on you, definitely. You're hurt. I wanted him to know that I understand where you're coming from and make him look like the good person and her like the bad person, and then try to get some type of connection with him as saying, I'm on your side. Either you attacked her because you wanted to, or you were defending yourself. It's one or the other. I think you were defending yourself and you didn't mean to hurt her. I was trying to bait him, give him different ideas of what could have happened to see if he would take one of them and lead us to Kathy. I went ahead and pulled up her finances. What did you think I find?
I told you, I'm always using it. Even the Wells Fargo bank card is my birthday. The PIN number is my birthday, 1971. I've always had access to the bank stuff, always.
You went and withdrew money from Wells Fargo, and you went to Chase. In that order.
Mm-hmm. That's what you're telling me, or
That's what
asking?
I'm telling you.
Okay. You're trying to make me tell you something that didn't happen and that I didn't do. You've been a f***ing dick with me.
No.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have. Your whole attitude changed towards me. Trying to make me tell you something that didn't happen and that I didn't do. You've been a f***ing dick with me.
No.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
Our connection is gone. He was upset. I knew at the end I had lost him.
This is stupid. I didn't do anything to my wife, Rosie.
I know that Sergeant Russell was in there and he had that rapport. So to me, it was like, if I can't do it and you can do it and you can get us to Kathy's body, I'm okay with it. I'm going to step out for a little bit and I'll be right back.
Yeah, round 2.
Whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
Bitch, don't even start, dude.
Just Bryce, settle down.
Oh, man.
Listen, I'm going to tell you straight up, looking at you, I don't think you did anything.
Well, you know, like, why is she just drilling me like that?
Because that's her job.
I know, but...
That's her job. And they're trying to figure out what happened.
Sergeant Russell puts the blame on us and not on him. And I'm your friend. Why don't you talk to me?
I've known you for a long time. And I watch how you act, and I've talked to you a bunch of times. But I'm telling you, something happened.
I was going to have to calm the interview down and try to convince him that I was on his side.
I don't think you did anything. I've known you for a long time. But I know you know where she's at.
I don't know where she's at, Mitch. Those are games, too.
No, I'm not playing a game with
you. You're telling me that you don't believe I did something to her so I can go ahead and tell you, yeah, okay.
No. I believe that because the way you looked at her when you were answering her. I've watched you for a long time. I've interviewed you on other things. And I know how much you like, your relationship with your kids. I've seen you at school. I've seen you take your kids to school. So I know all that stuff. And I'm not going to play games with you. And I'll get out of here and leave in just a minute. But I'm just telling you. you're going to have to step up for their sake.
I was trying to get him to a spot where he would take that and feel bad about kids not knowing what happened, family not knowing what happened. I tried to get on his level, man to man, where I was the only lifeline that he thought he had.
You got to come right with it, okay? All right, so think about it.
He stepped out of the interview room. I gave him the records to the phone to show where both phones were at the same location.
They think you have her phone, and you're saying you don't.
I don't have it.
You don't have it. Have you ever had it?
Just when we were at home and we would be pushing.
No, I'm talking about since this time. Have you had her phone at any time?
No.
Because I'm going to tell you that it's going to ping where it pings. I mean, it's going to be where it's at, where these GPS coordinates say it's at. And it's going to say it's at your house at the same time as your phone.
We are now deciding, if he doesn't confess, what is it going to take for us to convince a jury of 12 that he did it if we don't have the body? The first thing I wanted from him was to admit that he had her phone. And then once I could get him to admit, then I could work my way into where she was.
And so I know you had her phone. And that's not helping you. You're probably making this a whole lot worse. It's bad, don't get me wrong, not for you, but I'm talking about the situation. You're probably making it a whole lot worse than if you just told what happened.
Nothing happened.
Okay.
Me and Kat.
I didn't say it did between you and her, but the situation happened. Something happened that you ended up with her phone and texting back and forth with people. That, whether it may be completely righteous, that doesn't look good. And now that you've lied about it, you've got to get in front of it.
You know, and I'm not saying Rosie's lying, but I know how this. She already lied to me several times in the past week and a half. What else would she lie about just to try to get?
You know the game.
I've lied to people before to get them to tell the truth. She ain't getting nothing out of me because there ain't nothing to tell like that.
You're always walking that fine line of how hard and how far can you push, and everybody's a little different.
She may have been gone, but you're texting on her phone. And I don't blame you. I'd have been trying to find out what was going on too.
Look, Mitch, I'm going to tell you this, but I know it's just going to lead to something else. So,
okay.
You know, she's going to be, and I know they're listening. Whoever,
oh yeah, you know that.
It's going to lead to, okay, well, if you're lying about this, then what else are you lying about?
That's right. Well, hang on. It will. Except at least you will have a voice in this. Because right now, you do not have a voice in this.
Okay, look, the day she gave me the phone,
okay,
I took off with it.
All right.
When I left to go pay Brian and pick up the boys, I left with the phone and wouldn't give it back to her and left the house.
Okay.
When I heard Juan finally admit that he had both phones, I inhaled and then I exhaled. It's like, finally, we got there.
That was a big deal because it corroborated stuff we already had. What we believed happened was Juan had her phone, and he was texting numbers that were in her phone, acting like he was her.
Based on the circumstantial evidence, Kathy was dead. And we knew that Juan Gonzalez had done it.
We had a pretty good circumstantial case against Juan, but we didn't have a rock-solid case.
We do not have a body.
Because right now, you do not have a voice in this.
Hey, look, the day she gave me the phone,
okay,
I took off with it.
Juan admitted that he and Kathy got in a fight. He took her phone from her and then she left. Then within a few minutes of that confession about having the phone, I believe that we were going to transition to leading us to her right then.
What do you think happened?
I think she just left, Mitch.
But it just kind of fizzled out.
You think she'll eventually show back up?
Yeah.
I thought he may ask for an attorney, and we would have been shut down. I decided not to press the interview any further. I had failed them by not being able to get this confession that he killed her and dumped her body.
The longer that Juan was out in the free world, the longer there was this potential that he could tamper with evidence. There was this potential that he could flee.
My wife and I are very concerned about the boys. Our greatest fear was that Juan would just up and take the boys somewhere and we'll have nothing.
Juan had been seen using a credit card that belonged to Kathy's father. He had no permission to use this credit card, and there's no reason why he would have the credit card, and Kathy would not have given him the credit card. And so we made the decision to go ahead and put Juan in jail for the offense of credit card abuse.
When Juan was arrested, we placed the children with Kathy's brother, Paul Padgett.
Based on my experience with Juan, I believe he's going to have some remorse, and that's going to eat at him sitting in jail. Our plan was to let him sit for a little bit, and then we were going to go talk to him again. It just worked out that he kind of made our decision for us.
Hey, Juan. As I was here, I got a letter from you saying you want to talk to me. So I'm here to talk to you.
When Juan came in that day, he seemed worn down. It looked like it'd been wearing on his conscience what he had done.
I just wanted to know if y'all found anything out.
And we found some stuff in the investigation, yes. If anything happened to Kathy and you know where she is, this is the time for you to tell us.
I don't have anything to tell you like that, Rosie. I don't.
We had to get something from him. We had no idea where she was. We'd searched the fields. We'd searched the dump. We'd searched everywhere we could think of, and we didn't find her.
So what if this afternoon you get filed for murder?
I don't know. I don't know what to say on that.
This is going to be our last chance to get the truth and get Kathy back home. Because we were going to keep going until he takes us to the body or he requested an attorney.
I don't understand how y'all can charge me with murder when y'all haven't even found Kathy. Well, can y'all even prove that she's dead?
Because they have her blood. Your deceptiveness initially, the phone problem that you had, it's called circumstantial evidence. And it's the same as me watching you do it. Whether you did something to her or not, where is she?
I don't know where she's at, Mitch. I don't.
I mean, I'm a reasonable guy, but the evidence is overwhelming.
I see Juan looking down. I feel he's defeated. You can't help but get a little excited because you know you're getting the edge now. It was something that happened, like an accident, something else.
Maybe she did something to herself. Then you think, nobody's going to believe me. I'm on federal probation. We've been having troubles. All this stuff. So I'm stuck. What am I going to do? I've got to try to make it look like she disappeared. Ran off on her own.
I'm going to give him an out, and the out's going to be he found her dead and dumped her body. It's a better ending to the story of what he did.
It's not your fault if she did something to herself.
We'll try to press him to that position, but so we can find the body, and then we'll, figure it out from there.
I know this is probably a stupid question right now, but before I say anything, is there any way I can have something to drink and maybe smoke a cigarette?
What do you want?
I remember screaming, "Get me a cigarette! Get me a cigarette!" He wanted to tell us everything. We had to act fast before he changes his mind.
How's goodness?
Jenny is going to her car.
Okay.
At the time, I was still a smoker. So I ran in my car, grabbed my cigarettes, and brought them up, said, "He can have all of them if he just tells us where she is."
So we'll get you the cigarette or whatever, but you need to tell us the truth.
I didn't do anything to Kat.
Okay.
It's freaking pills, wasn't it? Mitch had got him on the road now to accepting the suicide story, so I just built on his tactic. I saw those bottles right there and they were empty. It's definitely very important that I remember the prescription medication, because this is stuff that in the past Juan knew that I knew. It wasn't something that was just brought up, so it makes it more plausible.
I don't know when she was taking those pills or whatever.
So you got home?
I got home and she was laying on the kitchen. On the kitchen floor between the stove and the refrigerator.
I mean, was she like bleeding or she just laying there?
I passed out.
She was laying down face first. I never panicked because I'm on federal paper and my record, you know, and...
It's understandable. So you put her in the car?
No, I put her in the truck.
So you put her in the truck, and where did you take her?
There's no talking, and it feels like it takes forever. And I'm trying to keep him engaged and not lose him, and now I'm getting excited that, hey, we're fixing to get some closure on this thing.
Hey, it will get better. Just where did you take her?
But I had that same feeling in the first interview. It was pretty devastating that it didn't happen that day. This is our last chance to find Kathy's body. This time, I did not want to screw that up.
Hey, I'm telling you, it'll get better. Just where did you take her?
I wrapped her up in some blankets. Took her up there on, what is that highway going towards San Angelo?
Like 158?
You want to sit there and cheer and jump up and down, but in all reality, you have to still be quiet because the interview room's not far away. So you don't want him to hear us and then him backtrack and not give us our exact location.
All right, well, this is what we're going to do, okay? You're going to smoke you a cigarette and drink you some Coke. And then we're going to load you up in the car and you're going to take us, okay?
All right.
The thing with Juan is you couldn't believe anything he said for the longest time. So when he told us where he put Kathy's body, I still didn't believe him that was going to be the place.
When we first got there, we all, parked our vehicles, we got out of the car, and we walked over to where he said that Kathy was.
I looked over the ledge, and then I can see moving blankets.
So crime scene investigators went down. They pulled back the blankets, and one of the first things that we saw was Kathy's H-E-B shirt. It was no doubt that the skeleton remains of Kathy were there.
You don't want to be happy because it's sad, but we were so happy that it was just, you couldn't help it. You couldn't contain it. It was just a lot of happiness that we found Kathy.
It's kind of finally, we got this done.
Even though she had been discarded like trash, she could have some dignity in the end.
Where we found Kathy was kind of in a culvert off the side of a road. There's not much but farmland or just dust and dirt out there.
If Juan had not told us where Kathy was, eventually she would have been found. How long? It could have been months, could be years. I call Paul, and it's just very hard to tell someone.
Rosie called me. And told me they had found her. It's terrible news, but at the same time, it was good news. Because not knowing, for me, is a lot harder than being able to deal with it and move forward.
We charged Juan Gonzalez for the offense of murder. They deemed it a homicide because of the way that the injuries were caused. The problem was, all we had were bones.
Whenever we go to trial, we always have a concern that the jury is just not going to believe our side. And we didn't actually have what exactly happened to Kathy. So it was a worry that if he would be found not guilty.
Juan finally testified at trial that he had sat on top of her and he had strangled her. The defense raised in this case sudden heat of passion. Sudden heat of passion means that you acted under such a rage that you could not control your emotions and differentiate that what you were doing is wrong. And it would have taken it from a first-degree felony, punishable by 5 to 99 or life, to a second-degree felony, punishable up to 20.
I was very worried. I was aware of the evidence that they had, but there's always that X factor. The jury could believe his reasons and decide that, based on the circumstances, that would have been justified.
The jury didn't buy his deception, and so they convicted him of murder. They sentenced him to life imprisonment.
That confession was key. It solidified his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
I'm just so grateful to the Midland Police Department and to the District Attorney's Office that they were able to uncover the truth, which ultimately finally led us to finding Kathy and being able to say goodbye properly.
A big part of me was taken. Still to this day, there's so much stuff that I have to tell her. But I can't call her.
Yeah, I miss her.
In the courtroom, Nathan read his victim impact statement.
I do remember stating that I now have an actual father figure, and that even though what Juan did to try to bring us down didn't work, because we just came back up.
My wife and I adopted both Nathan and Lee Adrian. My daughter is her sister. Anybody who doesn't know us and sees us, they just see us as a normal family, not one built from tragedy.
I told you, sandwich like cheese. That's why he's not eating it.
Because there doesn't have to be cheese
You got your
on
cheddar?
a sandwich.
You got your pepper jack?
I see their mom in them every day.
Lee Adrian reminds me of my mom a lot because of his enthusiasm. He's always looks on the better side, and the way he is just loving. And that's the way my mom was. And I'm glad that I had her for as long as I could, and I feel like she's my guardian angel.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to oxygen.com.
Kathy's missing and all these months are going by and there's no clues.
We had gotten a number of tips, possible sightings of her, but none of those things bore any fruit.
It's hard for me to tell the truth when I feel like I'm going to be in a bad predicament.
We know that somebody in Kathy's circle of friends is really lying about things.
I felt betrayed. I hung out with these people almost every day.
He was going to lie to me until I was able to refute his lie with a piece of evidence.
Let's go to the night that Kathy went missing. I did have an anchor interview. What were you doing that night with the cell phone? How stupid do you think I am?
That was a reaction that we wanted.
Kathy's father, Henry, reported that Kathy went for a walk on Sunday night and did not return home.
I got a text the night before Kathy went missing saying, I'll see you at school tomorrow. Love you, sis. And I go to school the next day, and Kathy's nowhere to be seen. I thought it was weird. She usually texts every morning.
I got a text. I was saying, like, look at your Facebook. When I had heard she went missing, it was like, maybe she ran away, because I've definitely ran away from home a few times, but I always kind of like came back, and it was pretty normal, I feel like, for some girls, so I was not even worried.
We received quite a few missing persons reports. 99% of them returned very shortly. She was 19, maybe she just wanted a little bit of time away from her parents.
When I first met Kathy, she was very shy. She became very bubbly, social.
Hi, so now I'm at the Isle on the Ferry.
I watched Kathy absolutely come out of her shell. She blossomed in high school.
Kathy was the nicest friend, not just to me, but to everybody. She constantly was trying to make all of us laugh. Whether you're being bullied or, you have problems in your own life, it kind of just went away with Kathy. It was us against the world.
My daughter and Kathy were close friends. She was part of the family. At first I thought maybe she's finally getting to that point where maybe she's a little rebellious, but she was not the type to just take off and not inform her parents, regardless of what anyone else thought. That wasn't who she was.
A couple days go by and she didn't contact anyone. We all were speechless. We didn't quite understand why she would have gone missing.
I was extremely worried about what was going on. Kathy was somebody that was on her social media every day, almost every other hour of the day.
Kathy's parents did say that Kathy had a computer, and they actually turned that over to us.
Kathy had been on a lot of dating sites. She had been talking to about 8 guys. A couple of them she had actually gotten together with in person.
One of my favorite things to do with Kathy was go to the mall and talk about boys. She was definitely boy crazy.
So we got all these guys to take polygraph tests. And everyone that we brought in and took the polygraph passed the polygraph. We were just losing time every step we took. And then we started getting Kathy's phone records.
We found an ex-boyfriend, Ezekiel Watkins, that Kathy had been text messaging back and forth with on the day that she had disappeared.
Everyone said that Ezekiel was a nice guy, but he had a temper.
When Kathy and Zeke broke up, it got a little out of hand. Zeke started going out with our friend Jamie. Kathy tried to tell Jamie that Zeke had anger issues when they were together, and she didn't want her to get hurt. And Zeke was very unhappy with the situation.
We had Ezekiel Watkins come in. He says, yes, he had a text back and forth with Kathy on that day that she went missing, but he hadn't seen her in months.
She had asked him if he wanted to hang out, and he had declined because he was involved with someone else.
He also said that he had an alibi in this case.
Ezekiel told me that night Kathy went missing, that he had gone to John Carpenter's house and had spent the entire night there.
John lived with his grandmother. His house was the main kick-it spot. Everybody would come over, listen to music, play video games.
John Carpenter said that Ezekiel came over that night about 7 o'clock, spent the entire night there, and all they did was play video games. They never saw Kathy that night.
They do what's called a triangulation, where they can find within a reasonable area where her phone last was active.
The night that Kathy disappeared, the triangulation that came from the ping of her phone was at a park called Boulevard Park.
Interestingly, Ezekiel lived in the same general area that those phone signals had been.
This is a missing persons case that we are now concerned about.
Even though Ezekiel Watkins had an alibi, I had concerns in the back of my mind because he was an ex-boyfriend. I talked to staff and teachers at the school that he went to, and they said he was known to be violent, which is very concerning to us. We still wanted to search that area.
It's acres and acres and acres of swampland there with a lot of trees. We were able to secure the help of King County Sheriff's Office search and rescue volunteers. So we started off with the tracking dogs and we came down to the dead end where Ezekiel lived. It was a small farm.
The parents agreed to let us on their property to do the search.
We didn't see anything that raised any kind of red flags and made us think that something had happened at that property.
Our job is to, one by one, eliminate that suspect, that scenario. So even though we'd already talked to Ezekiel, we want to get more information and bring it back to the police station to take a polygraph test.
He agreed to come in. Understand, the polygraph isn't something that's absolutely conclusive, but it can lead us different ways in terms of our follow-up and our questioning.
The polygraph examiner came out and told me that Ezekiel had passed the polygraph, that he had nothing to do with Kathy's disappearance.
We got some flyers together and we went and passed them around Renton, Burien, Seattle.
We had gotten a number of tips, possible sightings of her, but none of those things bore any fruit.
I was scared to death because realizing that Kathy's missing and there's no clues, you can't find anything, the search dogs don't find anything, I just always held up hope that she'd come back.
For all intents and purposes, this case had gone cold.
As the months kept going by, I honestly thought that Kathy's case would never be solved.
I was at my desk and I received a call from Kathy's friend, Giovanni Candelario. This phone call changed the case entirely.
Now, let's go to the night that Kathy went missing. Okay,
I have a lot of realistic dreams. It could have been a dream, it could have not been.
The story didn't make sense at all.
I pretty much consider them as brothers. You guys were arguing that night? Yeah.
The story starts unraveling.
I do wonder where she is, though.
I know what you did to that girl.
Every time I opened Facebook, there would be someone saying something about Kathy, and it would break my heart that no one had found her yet. Kathy was totally into cameras and constantly recording things. We knew for sure if we're gonna hang out with Kathy, something's gonna get recorded.
I kind of held on to that hope, thinking, well, maybe she'll be home eventually and everything will go back to normal.
How did you know Kathy Chow? I met her actually at school.
A call comes in out of the blue from one of Kathy's friends, Gio Candelero. Gio was roommates with John Carpenter, who was Ezekiel Watkins' alibi for the day that Kathy went missing. We don't know what it is he knows, but we're hoping that maybe this is the tip or the clue we've been waiting for.
Tell me who you live with.
John Carpenter at his house.
How long have you lived there?
About 2 years, maybe.
And how do you know Ezekiel?
Just a friend of the group and a friend of John. You know, I pretty much consider them as brothers because they pretty much took me in while I didn't know English.
So was Kathy part of that as well?
Yeah, she was a girl. She was one of the friends of the girls that we all knew in a way.
Now, let's go to the night that Kathy went missing.
Okay, fine. I was in my room. Zeke decided to show up. As he's coming in, I see mud on his shoes and a big gash right here on his lip.
Gio begins disclosing to us the night that Kathy disappeared, Zeke shows up back at the house after leaving, covered in mud, covered in blood. That was a game changer at that point.
He was downstairs with John for a little bit, and the next morning, John's like, dude, he like woke me up out of nowhere asking me for a shovel. A shovel.
The information regarding the shovel was new information. What does Ezekiel need a shovel for? We have to just stop and question everything at that point because something clearly changed. So, what happened?
Now the question kind of comes up, why you didn't call us a year ago?
To be honest, it started hitting me way after I started noticing his mood started changing. He started losing control, like he started yelling and screaming for no reason 2 nights ago. He comes to the house, and out of nowhere, he snapped and started charging at John. I was like, okay, that is it. I had it with you. I told him, I think I know what you did to that girl. And I told him, you came in my room with blood on your shoes, and mud all over your pants, blood all over your hands, and I gash in your name. I'm like, how stupid do you think I am? And as I'm telling him that, he was shaking. He was trembling. And as soon as I'm done saying that, he left.
In listening to what he was saying, a number of things resonated, knowing the background information we'd heard about Ezekiel and how he would become possessed and go into rages. So to me, this was Giovanni's confession. He'd been carrying information critical to a case and hadn't said anything.
Did he deny anything?
No, he didn't deny anything. That's the reason why I called you. That face that he gave me said everything, dude. That's why I was like, that's when my conscience started hitting me, like in the heart.
We went from deadlocked with nothing going on to all of a sudden having purpose in a whole new direction to go. We know that somebody in Kathy's circle of friends was really lying about things.
So we wanted to try now and corroborate some of what Gio's told us.
John Carpenter was Ezekiel's alibi for the night Kathy went missing.
We need to bring John Carpenter back in. We need to get to the truth of what happened to Kathy.
How good of friends were you with Ezekiel Watkins?
I loved him like a brother, you know, and stuff like that.
What happened a couple days ago?
I've never seen Gio like this.
He confronted Zeke about Kathy Chow being missing, him being part of that, is my understanding.
Yeah, he said, that girl that went missing, I think you did, and stuff like that. When he was speaking of it, Zeke started to get shaky, however, and he just kind of just was silent then.
When you have two different people giving you the same exact information, verbiage that was used, and the physical reaction, it's credible. So many things are running through my mind. The case is going to break, but there's a lot more work to do before we get there.
Okay, let's go back to when Kathy went missing. Do you remember that night?
Very vaguely. I had a phone call on my cell phone, and it was Zeke asking if he could borrow my shovel real quick.
Can you elaborate on that at all?
And I'm like, hey John, one of my ducks really just died. It was one of the big ones. I need to dig a hole. Can I borrow a shovel for the duck? And so I was like, sure.
Zeke lives on a farm, and it wasn't making sense that Zeke would need to borrow a shovel.
What did he look like when you saw him?
Just a little dirty, that's about it.
He's not giving out that detail that Gio gave, that Zeke was covered in mud and blood. We had to start pressing John for more information.
Do you remember talking to me about a year ago right after this happened?
Vaguely, yeah.
You told me that Zeke got there about 7 o'clock and spent the evening and night at your house?
Roughly, yeah. That's what I assumed. It was probably a dream, though. Because I have a lot of realistic dreams, so It could have been a dream, it could have not been.
The story didn't make sense at all.
John mentioned having these dreams that things happen that are really realistic, which tells us that he doesn't want to implicate himself.
Did you ask him about that? I mean, I can't imagine this happening and you not having a conversation with him about Kathy Chow and what were you doing that night with a shovel?
I don't really say anything about it. I do wonder where she is, though.
John got the shovel for Zeke, and John lied to us about Ezekiel's alibi. So he knows that he's involved with this whole case, and at that point, he doesn't give up more information.
Okay, that's going to end the interviews.
This changed from being a missing person report to a situation looking like it was indicative of foul play.
We still don't know where Kathy is. We still have nothing other than circumstantial witnesses. Our strategy is going to be critical, and we have to do it just right. We had to find Ezekiel Watkins right away. So once this new information from Giovanni and John comes in, we have to start developing a strategy for how we're going to interview Ezekiel Watkins, because based on this new information, circumstantial evidence points to him.
The first time I talked to him a year prior, Ezekiel was very friendly toward us, but he was kind of a jokester. I thought Greg Barfield would do a better job in interviewing him because he could be more serious with Ezekiel.
Greg Barfield is some kind of a suspect whisperer. The primary talent you need in this line of work is the ability to talk to people, but Greg takes it to an entirely different level.
What I do to approach an interview is find out as much as I can about the case. And I also wanted to develop information on what kind of personality he has, what are his interests, how can I approach him so that he would feel comfortable talking with me. When I contacted Mr. Watkins on the phone, I just wanted to make it as low-key as possible. And he said he was willing to come in for a voluntary interview.
While Kathy was missing for a year, the worst was already coming to my mind that she was never going to come back. But I had never really given up hope. And then I got a random text from Zeke asking me if I had talked to the police again because they're going and interviewing people with new information. I found it alarming that the police were looking into my really good friends on my best friend's disappearance.
It is good to have somebody like Tanya by your side in the room. We both have the same philosophy when it comes to interviewing somebody. She's as patient as I am. You can't overstate how important that is, because all it takes is a detective getting agitated during that process to shut a suspect down.
We also had a prop. The prop was a shovel that wasn't the shovel involved in this case, but he didn't know that. And we wrapped it with crime scene tape, and we knew at a certain point if he was not forthcoming in information that I would introduce that into the room to see if we got any kind of a reaction.
Because it's new to me, I'm kind of going over everything again. Just kind of tell me what we were doing today and see what I'm missing.
I pretty much was at a friend's house, but he's no longer my friend anymore. But anyways, just pretty much played video games.
And then you stayed there till when?
I spent the night.
Spent the night, so you didn't go back out or anything like that? What kind of video games do you like playing?
Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War.
A lot of my friends and me, we all play.
When I cross the threshold into that room, I'm an actor. I will use whatever I think I can related to that particular person in order to get them to feel more comfortable speaking to me.
Did you have any conversations, contact in person, anything like that with Kathy that day?
Kathy texted me saying that she was going to be hanging out with guy friends or whatever.
Just the one text that day?
Yeah.
I had a piece of information that we developed from Kathy's phone records. So I knew that Mr. Watkins was lying to me right off the bat.
When I look at the records, it shows that you and her exchanged incoming and outgoing calls and text messages 46 times that day.
I don't know, it's just really neat.
care why she texted me much. But it wasn't just her. That's the thing. There's text messages from your phone texting back to her.
I anticipate that a suspect is going to lie to me in an interview or an interrogation. It was going to be baby steps getting information out of.
What would you say is the explanation for that? I guess arguments. You guys were arguing that night back and forth? Yeah.
He was going to lie to me until I was able to refute his lie with a piece of evidence. That's stressful because there wasn't a whole lot of evidence to go on.
So you guys were broken up at this time? Yeah. Was he upset that you were dating somebody else? Yeah, I guess so.
Finally, the story starts unraveling. It was like pulling a slow reel with Ezekiel.
I'm asking you to be straight with me. That's all I'm going to be with you, I promise. My goal is whatever the truth is. Keeping that in mind, I asked you, did you see her that night? You said no. Is that really the truth? No, well, I've probably seen her, yes. You saw her that night. Where did you see her at? Boulevard Park. Were you guys just talking, trying to work things out? I guess so. Were you getting mad or heated or anything at all? I heard pounds really fast. Yeah. I did have the anger issue, but I never strike or anything. Right. How long do you think you guys were walking around talking? 2, 3 hours.
Mr. Watkins spent 3 hours with Kathy on the last night that she was seen, and I now believe that Mr. Watkins was likely the last person to see Kathy before she disappeared. It's at that point that I gave Detective Gardner a visual cue to step out of the room and grab the shovel. My game plan was I was not going to reference the shovel, ask a question about the shovel. I just wanted to gauge his reaction.
That flinch in the eyes, that was a reaction that we wanted. If he'd had no reaction, we might have thought, oh, we're going down the wrong path.
Did you call John? You called John. Did you ask him for anything? Are you sure?
You could see him physically deflate. I believe he thought that was a shovel that was used that night. His reaction started helping confirm that it wasn't a buried ducks.
I'm just going to tell you, Ezekiel, I'm pretty good at reading people's body language, and there's something bugging you right now. Did you call John up to ask him for any kind of help, anything like that? Yeah. What did you ask him for?
I think, honestly, the pressure of him carrying this secret with him reached its peak.
Yeah. Right. What? It's all right. Kathy did, Jerry. What Kathy did to who? Herself. What did she do? What Kathy did? Kind of like cut her or something. She cut herself? Where at? Throat. She cut her throat? She did it to herself? Okay. What did that happen?
What Mr. Watkins reveals is that Kathy's dead. When I find that piece of information out, my number one goal is to find Kathy for her parents. If I could help resolve at least that part of it, that's what my goal was.
But I know it's tough. But we want to give some closure to her family.
Inside, the adrenaline is running, but I can't show that. If it was an accident or if she hurt herself, I just talked to him about that.
Were you asking John to help you with her? Yeah. Did he do that for you? He did? Yeah, dig the hole in there. How far down did you guys dig?
He tells me that Mr. Carpenter has helped to bury Kathy's remains. This is different, obviously, than the version of events that Mr. Carpenter's already told us. So we don't know what his involvement is.
John helped you pick her up and put her in the grave?
Now, on the face of that, as a detective, that seems like the least plausible thing that anybody would do if somebody harmed themselves. Instead of trying to go get her help, I'm going to call a buddy of mine and have him come over and help me bury her body.
It is very much shocking. Ezekiel, I have a hard time believing that your reaction is to call your friend, have him meet you, and you guys go and bury the body. It doesn't sit right with me.
Now that we've established the rapport with Zeke, he's now throwing Ezekiel off his game.
Did you get angry if something happened?
I got angry, yes.
Okay. What happened?
I did, yes, pull out the knife.
Okay.
But eventually.
So the next scenario was they were arguing, she took his knife, and then she came after him with it.
She somewhat grabs it, lay on the ground, and then she sliced my lip.
Okay.
And then I guess I jolted and turned the knife around and stabbed her in the foot.
He told us that he had killed Kathy in a terrible accident and buried her. I was just floored. This changed from a non-custodial interview to a custodial interview. Ezekiel wasn't free to leave, and Greg read him his rights.
You understand those rights? Okay. Are you willing to continue to talk to me about this?
Yes.
You're being completely honest with me about this was an accident.
Again, what Mr. Watkins is telling me didn't seem plausible, that he had some kind of involuntary spasm and then stabbed Kathy in the neck accidentally. But what I do know at that point is that he can likely show us where her remains are.
If you have a murder and you don't have a body, it's nearly impossible to get a conviction. Forensics, even a year later, will prove whether it's an accident or not. It was extremely important for us that he would lead us to where she was.
Do you know where that's at? Would you be able to go back there? Because like I said, it's important for us to be able to tell her that.
I can try.
Are we almost there then?
Pretty much.
And how far down the power lines here do you think it is?
Pretty much past the last one over there.
It was an overgrown field in his backyard.
Mr. Watkins stops and he indicates with his hands that this is the area that he believes Kathy's remains are at.
This is a big area out here, and we started thinking in terms of what we would need for equipment to actually process that scene. We know there's always more to it. We don't know just how truthful Ezekiel's being about this. Is this something that he's going to fabricate?
We have to find the body, but we also then need to make it a murder case, because right now he's saying it's an accident.
I don't believe what he's told me so far is the true version of what happened.
Ezekiel, so we talked about before, it's an accident, if something happened. It's not really an accident, right?
I didn't want to kill her. I didn't want to do it.
What made you so upset? What made you so angry?
One of the things I'm trying to establish is premeditation. So I asked him to visualize what he'd done and give him a moment to think about that and tell us the truth.
Pretty much kind of like rolling around, kind of like holding one of my arms, and I was trying to, get her arm off me.
Is she screaming? Is she saying anything like, please don't? Or what is she saying?
She's saying, please don't. And I was like, I'm not trying to do anything to you.
He keeps saying that it was an accident.
And you're sure about that?
I stabbed her throat through the knife, put pressure on her throat, trying to stop the blood.
Do you have your hands around her throat the whole time?
No. I removed them.
You took your hands away. But you left the knife in her neck.
And then I took it out later.
You took it out later?
He's continually maintaining that he accidentally stabbed her in the neck. I hit a sticking point with Mr. Watkins, so I want him to cool his heels for a little bit.
Stand up.
Because if I continue to push him, he's not going to keep talking to me.
Hands behind your back.
We don't want to shut him down because we still have to find Kathy's body.
We're also working on getting John Carpenter down to the station because now we know he has some involvement in concealing Kathy's remains after she died.
We want to corroborate if John had more involvement than he initially told us. Maybe John helped to kill Kathy.
Start the recording.
Behind your back. During this second period of speaking to Mr. Watkins after coming back from the field, he's sticking to his version of events, that he accidentally stabbed her in the neck. It doesn't ring true to me.
Spread your legs.
But we got enough evidence to take him down to the jail, and we book him for investigation of murder. At some point during this time frame, Mr. Carpenter was brought back into the station.
Okay, start the recording.
But they don't pass each other in the hallways to see each other, and Mr. Watkins has no idea Mr. Carpenter is there.
You provided sort of an alibi for Ezekiel by saying he was at your grandma's house. We know that not to be true.
At this point in the investigation, we don't know what Mr. Carpenter's involvement is. Was he there before Kathy died? Did he help in Kathy's demise? Because Mr. Carpenter's saying, borrowed a shovel to bury ducks. Mr. Watkins saying, called him to help me bury Kathy's body. So something isn't right.
Zeke said that you helped him dig the grave site. He took us out to there and he pointed it out already today. I think probably you were, trying to help a friend out who's in a bad spot.
Sometimes for me, it's hard for me to tell the truth when I feel like I'm going to be in a bad predicament.
Sure. Often with interviews or interrogations, there needs to be a trigger point for a suspect to tell you the truth.
So, I did. So, I wanted to help him out.
Sure.
But I kind of didn't at the same time because I was really sleepy at the same time. And when I saw it, I felt extremely horrible.
Yeah.
So when I confronted Mr. Carpenter, at that point, Mr. Carpenter decides to change the story again.
All I could really see was her feet. My mind just went blank, and I just looked at him like, he's a friend. And I just can't really turn him down, because if it was me in the same spot, he would have done the same.
Not only did he get a shovel, but he went to the site with Ezekiel and actually saw the body.
What do you say happened?
He led her out there, just like a hangout, whatever. Pulled out the knife, stabbed her a couple times.
He also noticed several cuts on her, not just one wound.
How did he tell you why?
Kathy was kind of being a creeper about him and his relationship that he had at the time.
Was your understanding he was leading her out there in order to do this, or something happened that caused this to happen?
I think he was leading out there to do this.
Leading her out there in order to ambush her, kind of, and stab her.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
Ezekiel, prior to that evening, had told him that he was going to kill Kathy Chow. So we've got that premeditation part. So that's pretty definite information that we now want to go back and ask Zeke about.
So you guys dig the grave right there next to her, or somewhere else and drag her to it?
A little farther up, and then her feet, we didn't dig enough over for her feet because we didn't know how tall she was and stuff like that. So her feet were kind of sticking up, so she jumped on her legs and broke them. So.
To get her in the hole?
Yeah. We also added garbage bags, dirt, plywood, logs, and sprayed it down with swamp water. So.
This is gruesome, but there were specific things that they did in the grave. There was this layering process in order to conceal Kathy's body and mask her scent, which is why we didn't find her body last year.
Would you know where it was at? Would you be able to point out?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay.
It feels good to have this off my chest. I was tempted to tell you guys about it, but I was like, if I tell them, I'm going to be in trouble as well because it was accomplice. After hearing that he confronted about it, I might as well do it too.
There's been a break in the case, but I know Kathy's out there somewhere buried. It's time to bring her home.
It's over here. We'll follow you up.
Not only the detectives, but literally every officer in our department, all the way up to the chief, is out there helping the search for Kathy's remains.
That large one right there?
John pointed out a slightly different location, a number of yards away from the spot that Ezekiel thought that he had buried Kathy in.
He said he was a little bit west of that.
We returned with more manpower and a strategy and a grid pattern, which was approximately a football field size area there. We took hydraulic brush cutters, mowed down the grass, and started our way down from ground level down, inch by inch by inch.
How far do you want him to go?
3 feet.
While other detectives are at the excavation of Kathy's remains, Detective Gardner and I are still at the station, and I decide I'm going to grab Ezekiel Watkins and bring him back up. Because so far he hasn't given me the whole truth, so my goal in sitting down with him again is to get him to tell me really what happened.
We wanted to get that confession of premeditation from Zeke.
I'm just going to be straight with you. After interviewing you twice, I interviewed John Carpenter and talked to him.
We told him that his buddy John had given us this information and that the best thing he could do would be to also give us the full truth.
I don't think you're being truthful with me. John told me you took her out there for one reason. You were going to stab her because she's been meddling in your business. It's been a long, long day, and I don't want to sit here and have you lying to me again. Did you get her to come out there because you were going to stab her? Did you get her to come out there because you were going to stab her? Yes.
He felt that Kathy was making things difficult for his current girlfriend. That was the motivation for this entire tragedy.
How long had you been thinking about doing this before you called her that day?
A couple of days.
This is a confession. We can now hold Mr. Watkins accountable for what he did. Now it's talking about how this really happened.
I did shove her down to the ground, saying, please stop, I won't try to ruin your life or something.
He describes how Kathy pled for her life.
I know we struggled, I know somehow she did get the knife, just cut me, up here on her lip, is every time. Yes.
Fighting for her life is what she was doing. We can tell that from the injuries that he sustained.
Did you tell your girlfriend about what happened? You did.
After this murder, Ezekiel had actually taken Kathy's high-top shoes. He had given them to his current girlfriend. That was a really disturbing revelation. We eventually got an admission from her that she had heard about the murder from Ezekiel. She'd just been too scared to tell anyone about it.
In a 24-hour period, we got enough information to get us to a place we hadn't got to in the last 15 months. But we still need to find Kathy.
Throughout this, we're looking at this as an archaeological dig. We're probably 40 people out there with shovels and wire mesh screens to sift dirt through.
They got to a place where they found a corner of some black plastic.
Plastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
They continue to excavate by hand now. They found under that layer of plastic was a layer of dirt and logs. And finally, what they recognized to be a body.
For me, it was very emotional. It was heartbreaking. I have to go to her parents and tell them, we found your daughter, but she's no longer with us.
To see the pain on their faces, but the relief at the same time was closure for them and for us.
When we had heard that Zeke was the one that killed her, I was absolutely shocked. I felt betrayed.
It just took me so long
to actually accept that that's what really had happened. And then I started reading in the details, and it got worse from there.
Kathy's body had several stab wounds. The most significant one was the wound from her ear to ear around her neck. This proved that Mr. Watkins killed her with premeditated intent and not in self-defense. We had no evidence that Mr. Carpenter participated in the killing. He could have been charged with rendering criminal assistance after the fact, but he got counsel, and that lawyer only let him speak to investigators with a promise that the state wouldn't file charges against him. So he got immunity for that.
John and Gio, they kept it a major secret. Nobody let it slip. They actually helped me pass flyers out. They acted worried. I hung out with these people almost every day.
On March 13th, 2015, the jury returned a verdict of guilty as charged to murder in the first degree. Ezekiel Watkins was sentenced to 27 years for murdering Kathy Chow.
I hope he wakes up every day thinking about what he did. Is it enough? I don't know, but sometimes your own guilt will torture you. So maybe him living with that, maybe that will be his punishment.
I really miss and love Kathy. There's nobody else like her. Nobody could ever replace her.
You expect her to always be there. So when it's gone, you realize what a great friend you had. She was someone that always laughed and always knew how to make someone smile. And she loved you, and you always knew that. Always.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.